God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Good afternoon, everyone. Wisdom Institute, Sanjo College. Now would like to welcome Dr. Binu Thomas, Coordinator, IQAC, Marian College, Kuttikkanam, Autonomous, for the welcome address. Welcome, sir.
Father Joby Vellaplakal, manager of JPM College, Dr. V.V. George Gutti, principal, Dr. Tejil Thomas, resource person of the day, Father Joby Aduguril, Ms.SHEELA S, Mr. Rabin B. Thomas, and all participants, a warm good afternoon to all. So we are very happy to see that this pandemic period is for all, maybe most of the people in the community, it is a period of slowdown, loss in business, loss in activities, and maybe some kind of laziness in their life. But JPM College, I think this is the days for more and more activities. Lot of activities are being conducted there, international webinars, series of other webinars, and now a faculty development program. So we are very happy to see that the show and training a lot of faculty members, not only in the college, but also the teachers from other institutions and taking a lead role in this pandemic period. And this all happens because of a very vibrant, dynamic leadership. The manager, I would say, the newly appointed manager, Father Joby Vellaplakal, he is very keen in bringing new things, innovations into campus, taking a lead role, and also facing the NAC accreditation, preparing for the NAC accreditation, doing planning and implementing a lot of activities. So giving JPM College a new direction. The leadership of Father Joby Vellaplakal is really giving a new direction for the college, and a lot of activities are happening there. And Father, we know that you are very busy because you serve us not only as the manager of this college, you are the provincial of CST Fathers of St. Joseph's Province, and also managing 2 colleges. So in spite of this busy schedule, you find time to ensure that new things, positive things are happening in the college, motivating all the teachers, giving a proper direction for the activities in the college. So on the behalf of the organizing team, and all the participants of this faculty development program, I extend a warm welcome you to Father Joby Vellaplakal. And the principal of JPM College Labbakada is really experienced. He was the former controller of examinations for Calicut University, and also Sarah has got a wide experience leading the IQAC team. And now with his all experience in organizing and managing the examinations of a university, and also leading the IQAC team of a prestigious institution of Kerala, now JPM College is now taking charge of the principal, and we can experience the changes happening in JPM College, the new things happening, lot of innovative activities happening. And this faculty development program is also an initiative headed by George Gutti sir. So on the behalf of the organizing team, of this faculty development program, I welcome you, sir, for this faculty development program. And Dr. Tejil Thomas, he is a right person to lead a session on data analysis for social science research. It is the need of the hour, because if we take or when we try to face the NAAC accreditation, many of our colleges, conventional colleges, we lack research, we lack publication, and the teachers must be trained so that they will be having new skills and abilities for data analysis, for conducting research, especially in social science, so that more publications, more research projects will be happening in our institutions. So we are very lucky to have you as the resource person, and on behalf of the organizing team, I welcome you, sir, Dr. Tejil Thomas, for this faculty development program. And Father Joby Aduvuril, the Vice Principal of JPM College, he is also supporting all the activities of JPM College, especially the NAAC-oriented activities. So I welcome you, Father, for this faculty development program. And Ms.SHEELA S, the IQAC coordinator of Marian JPM College. We have associations with the Marian College under the Paramar scheme, and she is very vibrant, very dynamic, organizing a lot of activities. So for the for this faculty development program, I welcome you, ma'am, for this development program. So with this, let me conclude my official welcome speech. We wish, on the behalf of Marian College, we wish all the success for this faculty development program. We wish that let it be a great success, and all the participants, let it be a really encouraging, enriching experience for you. So I welcome all the participants for this faculty development program. Let it be a really enriching experience for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And on behalf of everybody present, we would like to welcome you, sir, to this wonderful faculty development program. Welcome, Dr. Tejil Thomas. And now we would like to have Mr. Ebin P. Thomas, Assistant Professor, Department of English, to introduce and to welcome the speaker of the day.
Good afternoon to all. Honorable guest of the day, dignitaries and dear participants. Really happy to be with you today on behalf of Faculty Development Program. And I'm very much happy and privileged to introduce the speaker of the day, Dr. Tejil Thomas, Assistant Professor and Research Guide, Department of Commerce, St. Thomas College, Palai. He is an alumni of St. Joseph's College, Labbakada, completed his degree and master's from this college, and he coveted a gold medal and rank holder of MDM from IGNOU. He grabbed NET with JRF in 2008 and completed his doctoral thesis in 2016. Dr. Tejil is very much interested in tourism marketing, quantitative techniques, business statistics, and in research methodology for social science. He has to his credit a number of publications and recently published an article titled Digital Financial Inclusion, a Catalyst for Socio-Economic Transformation of Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes in Kerala. You know, Dr. Tejil is an academician. He regularly participates and addresses international, national, and regional gatherings. He is currently a member of Calicut Management Association, and proudly he is a reviewer of international journal leading research publication. And moreover, he is a research guide and a man of excellence. Sir, on behalf of JPM Educational Institutions, once again, we would like to welcome you. And now over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to all of you. Respected Manager, Reverend Father Joby, Principal Dr. B.V. Georgiouti sir, Vice Principal Reverend Father Tony, Dr. Binu Thomas sir, IQAC Coordinator, Marian College, Kuttikkanam, Ms.SHEELA, IQAC Coordinator, JPM College, respected professors and dear participants. At the outset, I must gratefully remember the master brain of the program, Dr. V.V. Georgiouti sir, principal of JPM College, for inviting me to handle this session as part of 3 days faculty development program. I also take this opportunity to congratulate Georgiouti sir and all his team members for organizing a good number of international and national webinars and faculty development program like this for academic community during these pandemic days. Dear participants, I'm so happy to be with you and to interact with you as part of this program. The topic I have chosen for today's presentation is data analysis for social science research, an overview. I know that this is one of the harder talks to give, simply because I have to give you a bird's eye view of a very vast and a technical area in this short presentation. However, I decided to take this risk with an expectation of your wholehearted support and cooperation. Okay, I hope that my presentation is visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, now I shall give you an idea about the contents of the presentation. As you see in the slide, there are 4 parts in the presentation. We have to discuss all these aspects during this presentation. In the first part, we will see about the background, the meaning and process of data analysis. The matters going to be discussed under this part may be very familiar to you. You have already studied about these aspects in research methodology. In the second part, we will see the different types of statistical analysis available for social science researchers to address our research questions, testing our hypotheses, and for making inference about our population. This part is also includes various factors or assumptions related with the choice of statistical analysis according to the requirements of our study. The third part deals with one of the crucial problems that a researcher faces during the phase of data analysis, that is the selection of appropriate statistical tests. Definitely, this discussion in this part will help you to select appropriate statistical tests based on the requirements of your study, based on the characteristics of the data and other assumptions related with the variables. Actually, the selection of statistical test is a challenge before a researcher because the selection of appropriate test according to the nature and the assumptions of variables or according to the requirements of the study is not a simple thing. We have to do so many things and you have to do a lot of homeworks before starting this analysis. Actually, you have studied about various statistical tests and procedures, and some of you might have already learned about how to perform this analysis with the help of data analysis softwares using different packages. In those cases, your job will be very easy. You simply learn how to select an apt test for our study. In the last part, I shall introduce some of the statistical packages you can consider for your data analysis. As you know, doing this analysis using pen and paper for a large set of data is not so easy. Therefore, we have to consider a package for our analysis. Okay, now let us go to the first component in our presentation. Before going to the data analysis, we should have a look at the research process. Why do we consider the steps in the research process while discussing about data analysis? You see, data analysis, one of the most crucial activities in every research process. And also, if you have done the works under different stages before the stage of data analysis, the work of data analysis would be considerably an easy task for you, and it will generate very reliable and valid results from the analysis for your study. In general point of view, there are 4 phases in every research process. Okay, this is only a basic structure of a research process. The first is planning phase, where you specify your research problem, then setting your objectives and formulating your hypothesis and sampling design and other methodological aspects. Then in conceptualization phase, you acquire domain knowledge and you conduct review of literature, that is a review of previous studies in your area to identify or justify the research gap. And you prepare conceptual model based on your study, based on the theories related with your domain. In the data analysis phase, you will prepare a data collection instrument, then with appropriate questions for collecting sufficient data from the samples, and thereafter we will do the analysis according to your analysis plan or strategy to fetch the needed information for solving our research problem. Then interpretation, then interpret your results of analysis based on the rules and threshold values of statistics. And in the reporting phase, prepare a research report that you have done in the proper format and chapterization suggested by the university. Roughly, you understand this is what is actually happening in every research process. It's only a basic structure, and according to different topics and the different areas, these steps may be different. Here, I'm not going into the details of the research methodology as it is not part of our discussion today. Here, I just come across the process just to emphasize the place and the importance of data analysis. Okay, now let us go to the next component in our presentation. Okay, before jumping into the data analysis, we should know what is the data and what is the data analysis. What is the data? Actually, this is a very familiar word to all of us. In research point of view, the data means the value of quantitative or qualitative variables. Okay, what about quantitative variables? They are actually, they take numerical values for measurement. Basically, these variables are expressed in numerical values. For example, height, weight, sales, profit, price of products, price of shares, or any variable which is having a numerical value, or the variable which is expressed in numerical values. They are quantitative variables. Then what about qualitative variables? These variables do not have any numerical values. They are simply categorical variables. Normally, we can't do any such mathematical computations on such variables. For example, gender of persons, it is a qualitative variable. Then it is having different options like male, female, third gender, etc. to represent the variable. Okay, when we consider social science researchers, most of the variables are qualitative in nature because the nature of topics covered under different disciplines of social sciences will be like that. Anyway, in our research, we have to consider or we have to deal with quantitative and qualitative variables, and you have to do or we have to select appropriate statistical analysis for these quantitative and qualitative variables. But for the most of the cases, but for the sake of analysis and statistical decision making, usually researchers have to quantify those qualitative variables with proper coding, ranking, or indirect measurement methods. Okay, now okay, we have already learned about what is data and what is data analysis. Here where we should study about what is data analysis. Okay, there are different approaches in explaining the meaning of data analysis. Basically, the data analysis means the application of data analysis tools or statistical tools to understand the nature of data, to analyze the relationships between different variables in the data set, to interpret the figures available from the analysis, and to derive conclusions from the data based on the requirements of the data requirements of our study. Then it is considered as, the data analysis is considered as a process of presenting data in different understandable forms and interpreting the data using various statistical tools and techniques. It also helps in discovering very useful information from the raw data collected from the field or collected from the samples. In research point of view, we collect the data and do the analysis for describing the characteristics of our variables in the data set, for finding a relationship or association between the variables, and for testing the research hypothesis for the purpose of addressing our research problem. For satisfying, and we have to satisfy the objectives of the research, and we have to make decisions about our hypothesis. That is whether to reject or uphold the null hypothesis. And finally, we want to make certain generalizations about the population based on the statistics computed from the samples, so collected from the target population. I think you are clear about the concept of data analysis. Okay, now let us see the process of analysis. Okay, we have already seen various steps in the research process and understood the place of data analysis in research process. Now it is essential to know about the process of data analysis. We should be familiar with what all things that we have to do as part of the data analysis, and what are the basic operations or preparations to be done to complete the data analysis, etc. Okay, there are 6 steps in the data analysis process. Let us see what all things that we have to do in each step in the process. First of all, the first one is data requirements. We should understand what is the purpose of collecting data, and why do we want to do this data analysis. We should be clear about the objectives and the research problem to be addressed through the research. What kind of data we need to satisfy our objectives? What kind of data that you need for our purpose? How much data that we need from the field for the successful completion of the study? In that case, you understand about what kind of data and how much data that you need from the fields or from the samples for satisfying our requirements or for addressing our research problem. It means that you should clear about the data requirements of the study. If you are clear about methodology, objectives, and hypotheses, this step would be very easy. Okay, that's all about the identification. First of all, we have to identify the data requirements by referring the objectives, by referring our research problem, then hypotheses, etc. We can understand what type of information, what type of data that we need for solving our issues. Okay, the next step is data collection. While collecting data, you should keep your data requirements in your mind. We have already identified what kind of data that we need to satisfy our requirements, and therefore we have to draft our data collection instrument according to the data requirements, what type of questions to be asked to get the right data from the samples, what all matters to be asked to get the required data. That means we have to prepare the instruments based on the form and contents of the data required for the analysis to get required information. That is, after preparing this instrument, you have to check the reliability and validity, and you administer that data collection instrument like questionnaire or interview schedule to collect the data. Okay, in this case, you have to remember two things. First one, only collect only relevant and required data from the sample. We have already identified the data requirement, and you prepare your data collection instrument, that is questionnaire or interview schedule or any other data collection instrument. You prepare the instrument according to the data requirements. You include all the relevant questions, and you collect only the relevant and required data from the sample. Second one, the collected data, or when we collect the data, the collected data must be in appropriate formats which is eligible for further data analysis. That means you must have an idea about the statistical tests that you are going to be applied on your data after the data collection process. And here, that is why in case most of the researchers, the guides may suggest the scholars to consult with a statistician while finalizing the question, because we have to see that whether the contents in the questionnaire are eligible for further analysis, whether the formats of the questions, the type of questions, or whether those are eligible for further data analysis. Okay, you have to ensure these two things at the time of data collection. First one is collect only relevant data from the sample, and the next one, the collected data must be in appropriate formats for further data analysis. Okay, you have to keep that data analysis point in your mind while collecting the data. The next step is, after collecting data by administering the data collection instrument, the next step is the data cleaning. What does it mean, data cleaning? Here, what all things that we have to include in this particular step? Really, it is the data preparation step, where you have to feed your data to the any one of the software that you have already selected, like Excel, MS Excel, or SPSS, or Stata, or R, by using proper numerical codes. Okay, what all things that you have to do as part of the editing or data cleaning process? You have to remove all duplicate data or observations in this in the data set that you have collected from the samples, and manage the missing values in the observation in the data. Sometimes there will be missing values. You can either remove those missing values or missing observations, or you have to use proper imputation techniques to manage your missing values. Then remove errors, maybe the clerical or computational errors in the data. Then remove outliers or extreme values if possible. If the situation permits, you remove outliers or extreme values. Then remove incomplete data or observations, etc. And in this step, you have to make your data set fit for the analysis. That means make necessary editing, coding, and classification on the data set, and you prepare your data set eligible for further analysis. Make the data set fit for the analysis. All these editing works can be done with the help of options available in the data analysis softwares. Okay, here you can do it with the help of these analysis packages. Okay, this is the data cleaning or data editing phase. Actually, in this case, you have to prepare the data, you have to enter, you feed all the data to the system, and you make proper editing, and you remove all unwanted things, and you manage it properly, and you make your data set completely fit for the different types of data analysis. Okay, the next step is data analysis. In this step, we actually our data set is ready for the analysis. In this step, we apply the statistical test and derive certain inferences from the data. Okay, in this case, first of all, you have to understand your informational requirement for decision making. Okay, we have a research problem. We have certain objectives, we have a research hypothesis, etc. And we should remember what kind of information, what kind of inputs that you need for satisfying these areas. What kind of information that you need from the data for decision making purpose. Accordingly, you have to use appropriate statistical tests for analyzing your data. Here, you will be provided data presentation tools for descriptive analysis and inferential analysis. You can choose the statistical test according to the nature, according to the measurement, and according to the number of variables in the data set. Okay, I shall explain about how to select an apt test in the coming sessions of the presentation. Definitely, we will see later. In this case, you should ensure that you have applied right statistical test on the variables to extract right information for our decision-making purpose. Okay, next step in the data analysis process, that is data interpretation. Okay, it is coming after the data analysis. We have to interpret the results, the figures, and the coefficients available from the data analysis. Here you compare the coefficients with the threshold values or benchmark values to arrive at conclusions. Then you describe the meaning of your result of the analysis using the theories of statistics. You have to refer the theories of statistics for explaining the meaning of the various figures available from the analysis. You explain the nature and the pattern or the trend of your variables, the association of relationship between different variables by referring the result of the analysis. Okay, you can generate, definitely, as you know that here, we can generate the findings, important findings and inferences of our study, mainly from the interpretation of these results. Here, I'm not talking much about the data interpretation because we have to focus on the data analysis tools and all that. Therefore, I'm just mentioning about data interpretation as an important step in the data analysis process. And finally, the last step is reporting the result. Here, it is an important aspect in the process of data analysis, or we have to complete that. Here, in this case, we have to report the result of the analysis in the thesis in a prescribed format. Here, you can do visualizations, data visualization. That means presenting the result using diagrams or graphs for easy understanding. You can present the figures and coefficients in tabular formats, that is in tables. Then you should refer any one of the, normally we should refer any one of the reporting style or formats like APA, MLA, etc. while reporting the results. Here you have to justify your decisions and conclusions about the research problem, about your research hypothesis with empirical evidence presented in the report. Okay, we should include all relevant information from the analysis in the research report. That is That's all about the various steps in the analysis process. We should keep this process in your mind, all of we how to apply this process and we how to come across this process when we do a dissertation or an MPhil thesis or a PhD thesis, whatever it is. Then you have to consider this aspect, and a basic framework should be kept in your mind. Okay, actually we have completed the aspects in the first part of the presentation. Actually, the first part was about what is the data and what is data analysis and what are the various process in data analysis. Okay, now let us go to the second part. That's a very important part in the presentation. Okay, in the second part, we are going to see the different types of statistical analysis available for analyzing data for social science researchers. Okay, there are three different types of analysis are possible in social science researchers. Basically, okay, I'm talking about the central point of view. Here, the first one is data presentation. We have data presentation tools. Then second one, descriptive analysis. We have to do a descriptive analysis in some places. And the third one, inferential analysis. Okay, these three statistical analysis provide us different results, and they are having different scope for the analysis. Therefore, when we you consider these three types of analysis. These three analysis offer number of techniques and number of tools for analyzing our data. Definitely, when we discuss about these types of analysis, there arises some questions in our mind. Okay, there are three questions related with this data analysis. But if we have a clear answer about these three questions, we can select appropriate test for our study. The first question, what kind of results are obtained from these methods? First of all, you must understand what are different types of results. What is the form of results obtained from these three analyses: data presentation, descriptive analysis, and inferential analysis. The second one, what are the eligibility criteria of the variables to be considered for this analysis? We can't apply data presentation everywhere. We can't apply descriptive analysis everywhere. We can't apply the inferential analysis everywhere. Then we have to consider the eligibility of our variables, the eligibility conditions required for applying these different analysis, different methods of analysis. And the last case, under what all circumstances do these methods apply? Here, that is in the final step, we will find the appropriate statistical test for our study, our analysis. Okay, let us discuss about the first question. Okay, we are talking about the aspects in the second part given in the contents of the presentation. We are in the second part, and let's discuss about the first question. Okay, what was the first question? What kind of results are obtained from these different types of analysis? Okay, we have identified three types of analysis for social science research: data presentation, descriptive analysis, and inferential analysis. Okay, first one is data presentation. What does it mean? It is simply the pictorial presentation of the details of the variables. That means visualizing the details of the data using graphs, diagrams, charts, etc. And in this case, the data presentation would be actually useful to depict the pattern, the trend, the frequency of the variables in our data set. It will help us to easily understand the nature and characteristic of the data, and it is presented in a pictorial manner. Therefore, we can easily understand the trend, the pattern, and the distribution of data rather than presenting it in another or a tabular or another way. That means it is for easy understanding of the basic characteristics of our data. Okay, this method is generally referred to as data visualization technique, data visualization. Okay, if your data requirements demand this data presentation using charts or diagrams, definitely we have to use this kind of analysis with your data. That means the data visualization in most of the reports and most of the researchers, actually we need data presentation tools for presenting the very complex data, or maybe whether it is a categorical or whether it is a continuous data. We need these data visualization techniques to present our complex data in a very simplified manner. Generally we use, okay, these tools are very familiar to you. Generally we use bar chart, pie diagrams, line graph, histograms, scatter plots, box plots, etc. for data presentation. Okay, here decision about which one is to be selected will be discussed later. Here, in what all situations we have to use bar chart and pie diagram, in what all situations line graph and histograms will be used. Okay, those things will be discussed in the next part of the presentation. Okay, now you just understand here about what is the data presentation, what kind of results are available from this data presentation. Okay, now let us see about the second type of analysis, descriptive analysis. It is very essential for our research analysis. It's a very essential part or the basic or fundamental part in the data analysis process. Okay, why do we do the descriptive analysis on our data? Here, the descriptive analysis will be used for describing the basic characteristics and features of our variables in data sets. Okay, it will provide us some summaries, some percentages, or some central values, or some figures to represent the basic characteristics, to show the basic characteristics of our data. Okay, that means if you want to know about the behavior, about the features of our variables for decision making, or for further analysis, we can apply these descriptive analysis. Actually, they provide us very simple summaries and descriptive statistics about the variables in the data set. Here you should note that here in this descriptive analysis, there is no question of dependent variable or independent variable, nothing is like that. We should get some summaries, we should get some details, basic descriptive details about the variables to understand about the basic data characteristics. Okay, the result of this analysis will be, okay, the descriptive analysis will be available in the form of frequency tables with percentages. Okay, frequency tables are very familiar to you. Mean, median, mode, these are measures of central tendency. Then measures of dispersions, standard deviation, variance, range values, the minimum value in the series, maximum value in the series, then skewness or kurtosis. Okay, these figures, skewness and kurtosis figures, are very important for determining the normality and the normality of the data distribution, etc. Okay, that means here these different descriptive statistics can be used for getting an understanding about the basic behavior of our data set. Okay, that's all about the descriptive analysis. In this case, we should make a choice of descriptive analysis. Which descriptive should I use for my data, or if the data satisfies certain conditions, you can use one descriptive, and if the data is not satisfying that condition, you have to use another one. In that case, we have to make a choice, but that will be discussed later in the other part. Now you just understand what about the descriptive analysis and what all tools are available for descriptive analysis. Okay, now we can go to the next one, inferential analysis. Okay, this is the very important for all the researchers, because okay, you see that from the very name itself, you can understand what is the meaning of this analysis. Actually, this inferential analysis will help us to draw inferences about the population based on the samples. drawing some inferences, drawing some peculiar information from the data sets by applying some statistical tests, by applying appropriate statistical tests. That means here in this case, what we do, that means drawing inference about the population based on the sample study. That means we estimate the population parameters from the sample statistics, and moreover we use inferential statistics to test the significance of the difference between the result of different groups or variables in the data set. We test the research hypothesis by finding some evidences, or by finding evidences to reject the null hypothesis or not. Then here we study the association or relationship between different variables under study. Thus, the inferential analysis provide us statistics and some coefficients to take decisions about our hypotheses, relationships, and relationship between the variables, and to draw some inferences from the data which are unknown to the others, which are unknown to the common man. And that means we apply inferential statistics about to get some inferences for making generalizations about the population and finding some unknown relationships between or associations between the variables, etc. Okay, definitely we have to apply these inferential statistics. If you want to test some hypothesis, if you have some research hypothesis, definitely we have to use inferential statistics. Okay, we use two types of inferential statistics. We use parametric and non-parametric inferential tools for this kind of analysis. Okay, I shall just give you some of the examples of inferential analysis. Those are very familiar to you. That is chi-square test, t-test, that is one sample t-test, independent sample t-test, paired t-test, one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, MANOVA, multivariate analysis of variance, MANCOVA, then correlation, regression, then some non-parametric analysis like Mann-Vinay test, Wilcoxon-Swinnerton test, Kruskal-Wallis test, then Friedman test. So many repeated measures of ANOVA. So many inferential analysis are available in this particular group, and you have to choose appropriate appropriate inferential statistical tool for your data. And if you consider some of the assumptions, if you consider some of the features of data, definitely you can pick out the right analysis, whether you have to select parametric, whether we have to select a non-parametric. And okay, when you consider all these different tests, you can pick out the right analysis for your variables. Okay, that's all about the three different types of analysis possible. Okay, from these three different analyses, actually I think you got an idea about what kind of information, what kind of details are available from these different analysis. Okay, you can apply these different analysis for your data. Okay, now let us come to the second question. Okay, we know that there are three analyses, that is data presentation, descriptive analysis, and inferential analysis. But in order to perform this analysis, we should consider certain eligibility criteria. Okay, that we can say that. Okay, we have learned about the different statistical analysis available to us for analyzing our data. But we have an issue. What is that issue? We cannot apply all these analyses everywhere. That means our data or variable should satisfy certain conditions. Then only we can apply these analysis. In this case, we have to discuss we have to discuss the eligibility criteria of the variables. Okay. What are the eligibility criteria? Okay, first one, the first eligibility criterion or factor in the selection of statistical analysis is the level of measurement of variables. As you know that there are 4 levels of measurement. Okay, you have already studied about the measurement levels like ordinal, nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio variables. That means you can measure or you can categorize, categorize and define your variables under these 4 categories, either as nominal or ordinal, interval, or ratio variables. Okay, you have already studied about this these levels of measurement. Okay, the nominal data is, when we consider nominal data, it is purely a categorical data, and we simply categorize the options by using simple codes to identify the groups in the data. Then here in this case, in the nominal data, we can't do any mathematical computation. That means no mathematical computation is possible with the nominal data. Ordinal data is also considered as a categorical, but it is having an orderliness. That means it is drafted with an order. Okay, actually these 2 levels, or nominal and ordinal levels, are considered as categorical, and also they are considered as qualitative data, because basically these the variables under these 2 categories are not numerical data. Actually they are qualitative data, and we quantify those variables by using some simple codes or some rankings, etc. Okay, then we have interval and ratio data. Both are having similar nature with very few differences, that you know the difference between interval and the ratio data. Therefore, they are considered as scale variable or continuous or metric data. Okay, the interval and ratio data can be considered as scale data, or as a continuous data, or as a metric data. Okay, this scale data will be considered as quantitative data, because they are having actually these variables are quantitative variables, and these variables are expressed in numerical terms. Okay, the levels of measurement is the first criterion or factor in the selection of statistical analysis. The first 2 category is known as categorical variable or as qualitative variable, and the second category means interval and ratio. These 2 categories will be considered as scale data or as a numeric data, or which is considered as quantitative data. Okay, in this presentation you can find a model questionnaire where I have included some of the questions under these different levels of measurement. Okay, you first of all you can see, I don't know whether it is visible to you or not. Here, in case the first question, gender, here it is a nominal question. It is having only 2 options, male and female, and we may use a code, 1 for female and 2 for female, just for identifying these options or these independent groups in this particular variable, gender. Then age is given. The age is given as a age categories. Therefore, it is considered as an ordinal variable. Then here its educational qualifications given. It is considered as an ordinal variable because an orderliness there in the categorization. And in the 4th question, average annual salary is given. Here it is a numeric values given. It's a numeric data. Okay, therefore we can consider it as a scale variable. Then next is work experience. Again, it is a numerical variable. Sales method, then is a nominal variable. Here, okay, you look at the 11th question, liquor type data. That means 5-point or 7-point scale data. Basically, these statements are liquor statements. Liquor type questions are ordinal type data, and which will be considered as categorical data. Okay, when you first of all you have to refer your questionnaire or your interview schedule, and you identify the levels of measurement of the different questions in the questionnaire, and you can select the appropriate statistical test based on the levels of measurement. Okay, Okay, I think you are actually we can find out, you can verify the levels of measurement of the various questions given in your questionnaire. Okay. Okay. Next, we have to discuss about the suitability of your data, or next we have to discuss how can we apply or how can we choose the different statistical tests based on the levels of measurement. I have already told you that here levels of measurement is a criterion in the selection of statistical tests. Okay. Now we are going to discuss about the that aspect, how to select appropriate tool based on these levels of measurement. Okay, there are three types of analysis: data presentation, descriptive, and inferential. Okay, first we discuss about the data presentation. How levels of measurement is considered for selecting a tool in data presentation. Okay, we have already explained about the data presentation, and different tools are available for data presentation, and these tools will be selected according to the measurement levels of variables. For example, if your variable is nominal or ordinal, that means if your variable is categorized under categorical data, or if it is a qualitative data, we can consider the bar chart or pie chart. That means the discrete graphs. You have to consider the discrete graphs like bar chart or pie chart. Here we are not supposed to do or not supposed to select line graph or histograms, etc., because they are not continuous. They are discrete and they are categorical. And all in those cases, you have to use only discrete graphs, bar chart or pie chart for for presenting your data set. If your data is categorized under categorical variable, that is, if your data is nominal or ordinal, definitely we should consider these two important charts for data presentation, for data visualization. Okay, when we come to the interval and ratio, that is numeric data, your data presentation, your data visualization tools will be different. Then if your variable is interval or ratio data, you consider line graph, histogram, scatter plot, etc. for visualization purpose. Okay, that is the way of selecting a data presentation tool based on levels of measurement. Okay. Now, okay, next we can discuss about the selection of descriptive analysis or descriptive tools based on the levels of measurement. Okay, here levels of measurement is having a place in the selection of descriptive statistics. Here, for example, if your data is categorized under nominal or ordinal categorization, we generally use frequency table with the percentages. That is very familiar to frequency tables. And for describing the data properties, we will get the basic details about these two categorical variables, nominal or ordinal variables. Then suppose if you want to use a measure of central tendency, in this case, you can use mode. We are not supposed to use median, or we are not supposed to use the mean values in this case. If your variable is nominal or ordinal, the measure of central tendency that you can apply is mode value, mode. And generally we use frequency table. That means the table with the counts and percentages. Percentage of the total counts will be used for describing the basic elements of the data. From that table, you can understand the percentage of items under each independent groups in the variable. Suppose if you consider gender as a variable here, then the percentage of male or percentage of female respondents under this variable. That will be given in these frequency tables. Okay, in the descriptive analysis, the levels of measurement will be considered, and you select only frequency table in this case. Okay, suppose if your data set is categorized under interval or ratio data, we can use descriptive statistics like mean, median, mode, standard deviation, variance, range, skewness, kurtosis, minimum value, maximum value. Here you can find maximum descriptive statistics value about these categories, because they are basically numerical variables, and you can apply all these descriptive statistics without any problem. Okay, here you can use these techniques to depict the characteristics and the nature of the variables. And here it will give us the details about the variability, about the distribution, and about the central values, about the peakness of the distribution, about the skew of the distribution, and such details are available about the normality, the skewness, etc. That will be, such details will be available from this analysis. Here you choose if nominal, ordinal, choose frequency table, and interval or ratio data, we use descriptive statistics. Okay, next we can discuss about the selection of inferential analysis based on levels of measurement. Okay, here we have in inferential analysis, we can consider both parametric and non-parametric tools. These two types of tools are available. In this case, we have to discuss the influence of these levels of measurement in the selection. Okay, in inferential analysis, we have to consider two factors for selecting a particular test. First one is levels of measurement. You have to consider one more factor in this particular case. That is the assumptions related with the variables, especially the assumptions of parametric test. That means parametric assumptions must also be considered while selecting a statistical test. Levels of measurement and the assumptions related with the variables. Okay, let us see how to select statistical test based on these levels of measurement and the assumptions of parametric test. Okay, in the first case, nominal ordinal categorization. If both independent and dependent variables are categorical, which means nominal or ordinal, and if you want to study the association or difference between these variables, you can consider only non-parametric inferential analysis. Here in this case, you need not check the assumptions and all that, because basically they are categorical, and we can't do any mathematical calculations on these two categories of nominal and ordinal categories. Therefore, as they are the qualitative variables, we are not supposed to do any quantitative analysis there, and we can't do any parametric test on such variables. Okay, here suppose if you want to study about nominal ordinal variables, you always consider non-parametric inferential analysis. Like you can consider chi-square test, binomial test, rank correlation, etc. Under this case. Then if both variables, that means your dependent and independent variables are nominal or ordinal variables. Then if your independent variable is nominal or ordinal and your dependent variable is interval or ratio data, then in that case you want to study the association or difference between the groups based on this dependent variable. Here you can consider both parametric and non-parametric. First, okay, you see that the first case, your independent variable is a categorical variable. That means it's either nominal or ordinal variable. And your dependent variable is a scale variable or a metric variable. In that case, suppose if you want to study the differences between these categories in the independent groups based on the dependent variable, in that case, you can consider two types of tests, parametric and non-parametric. Then when we consider parametric, when our dependent variable satisfies the certain eligibility conditions, you can consider parametric test in this case. Suppose if our dependent variable does not satisfy those parametric assumptions, we have to use non-parametric test. Okay, what are the eligibility conditions in this case? Our dependent variable, okay, you need not worry about independent variable. You consider dependent variable, you check the normality of the dependent variable, you consider the homogeneity of variance between these independent groups. Then you have to check whether there is any significant outliers in the data set. You consider whether the samples have been taken from the population based on a random sampling methods, etc. Okay, if these assumptions are met or if these assumptions are satisfied, then we can go for parametric test. Then if in the same situation, if these assumptions are not met, then we have to choose non-parametric test. We have a number of parametric tests like one sample t-test, independent sample t-test, paired t-test, ANOVA, one-way and two-way or factorial, the MANOVA, ANOCOVA, MANCOVA. So many parametric analysis are possible in this case. Okay, what was the case? The independent variable is categorical and dependent variable is scale variable or continuous variable. In that case, we have to follow this procedure to select parametric or non-parametric. If our dependent variable does not satisfy those parametric assumptions, we have to go for non-parametric tests like Mann-Whitney U-test, median test or Mann-Whitney U-test, Wilcoxon Sine-Frank test, Kruskal-Wallis H-test, then Friedman test, etc., etc. A number of non-parametric tests are also available in this regard. Okay, here this selection will be based on two aspects. One is levels of measurement and the second aspect is the parametric assumption. Okay, this particular aspect is applied only in case of inferential analysis, especially related with the continuous variables. Okay, in the case of nominal ordinal variables and their, suppose when you study the relationship between those two variables only, you need not consider the assumptions, consider only the levels of measurement for selecting an inferential analysis. Okay, another case, suppose if our independent and dependent variables are ordinal. Okay, specifically they are ordinal, not nominal. Both independent and dependent variables are ordinal. And if you want to study the relationship between these variables, or if you want to study the effect of one variable on another variable, that means if you want to study the effect of independent variable on dependent variable, here we can consider only non-parametric inferential analysis like rank correlation, logistic regression, etc. Okay, here in this case, both variables are ordinal. Independent and dependent variables are ordinal, and you want to study the relationship, or if you want to study the effect of independent variable on dependent variable, in this case, you consider only non-parametric inferential analysis like rank correlation, logistic regression, etc. Okay, this is, in that case, you need not worry about the assumption. You consider only the levels of measurement. You don't worry about the assumptions, etc. Because we are dealing with the categorical data. In that categorical data, you don't worry about parametric assumption. It is always non-parametric. Then another case, suppose if you want to study if our independent variable is scale variable. Suppose our independent variable is a scale variable and our dependent variable is a categorical variable. Okay, we can expect such cases in our research studies. That means our independent variable is a continuous variable and dependent variable is a nominal or ordinal variable. In that case, you want to study the relationship between these two variables, then we can consider logistic regression or discriminant analysis accordingly. And the final selection will be done. Okay, I shall give you an idea about the final selection, whether to use logistic regression or whether to choose discriminant analysis, etc. That will be later in the next part of the presentation. Okay, I shall explain that. Okay, here you consider independent variable is continuous and dependent variable is nominal or ordinal categorization. In that case, you can consider logistic regression or discriminant analysis accordingly. Then another case, suppose if both independent and dependent variables are quantitative variables, both are quantitative variables, and if you want to study the relationship or you want to study the effect of one variable on another variable, in that case, you can consider what? Correlation, regression, linear regression or multiple regression, etc. Here we can choose the analysis under this category, the correlation and regression type studies. Okay, in that case, here you consider the levels of measurement. And here for regression studies, you need not check the, here you have to check a lot of assumptions. Here about the homogeneity, linearity, then normality of the residuals. In that case, you have to ensure the normality of the errors or residuals in regression analysis, etc. Okay, these are some technical aspects when you specifically discuss about the regression. Okay, these are the techniques. These are the ways we consider regarding the selection of different statistical techniques under different statistical methods based on levels of measurement and based on the assumptions of parametric tests. Okay, now let us go to the third part. It's an important part. In the third part, we are going to discuss about how to choose an appropriate statistical test. In the previous sections, we have roughly see what are the, then how to arrive at different statistical tests based on the levels of measurement and assumptions. In this case, we should be more specific about the selection of the test. That means in this case, we are going to clearly pick out a particular test for our study. That means here we have to consider three important factors. The first two factors we have already explained, that's the levels of measurement and parametric assumptions. In this step, that means in the final step of statistical tool selection, we have to consider one more aspect, one more factor. What is that factor? That is the number of independent and dependent variables under study. Okay, here for selecting, okay, you understand, for selecting a particular statistics specifically, we have to consider three aspects. One is measurement level that we have already discussed. Second one is you consider parametric assumption. If you deal with a numerical or quantitative data, definitely you have to consider the parametric assumptions. If our dependent variable satisfies parametric assumptions, definitely we should consider the parametric test. And if our dependent variable does not satisfy those assumptions, then you consider non-parametric test. Then you have to consider the third one, that is number of independent and dependent variables under study. Then we can select, we can clearly, exactly pick out the statistical test for our study. This will be very important for you. Suppose if you do any research work or any article work or research paper work, etc., you have to select the most appropriate statistical test for analyzing our data. Okay, this is a actually this is the second last part of our presentation. Okay, here you can look at the slide. Okay, I have so many slides are there in the same category. Then after this presentation, definitely I will give you the slide and you can refer this slide for choosing a particular statistical test for your study. Okay, then I shall just explain how to read these components, how to select the components from these tables. Okay, the first column in the table includes the nature and the number of independent variables. IV is independent variable, that's I have just given a short form. A number of independent variables. And the second column, number of dependent variable. And in the third column, the nature of dependent variable is given. In that case, in the nature of dependent variable, we have seen two aspects. What are the two aspects? That the two aspects we have already explained. That is about the measurement level and whether that variable has met the parametric assumption or not. That will be explained in the nature of dependent variable column. And the last column specifies which test is to be selected. For example, in the first table, okay, here you have no independent variable, that is 0 independent variable, no independent variable. We have only one dependent variable. That dependent variable is interval or ratio. Suppose that that dependent variable is interval or ratio, that is a quantitative variable, and that quantitative variable satisfies the normality assumption. It is normally distributed. Then you can consider one sample t-test as a parameter test for the inferential analysis. In that case, you can use one sample t-test. Here we have to study what is one sample t-test and how to perform one sample t-test by using a statistical software and how to perform that, and you have to learn what are the assumptions related with the testing of assumptions related with the one sample t-test, etc. That we have to study later. Okay, this is the way we select the statistical test. Only one dependent variable, and that is interval or ratio. It is normal. Then you consider one sample t-test. Then the same variable, it is interval or ratio, but it is not normally distributed. When you check the normality of the variable using a Shapiroval test or by using the skewness or kurtosis, etc., and we could find that it's not normal. In that case, we have to use one sample median test, not one sample t-test. We have to use one sample median test. Then another case is you have only one variable. That dependent variable is a categorical variable, either a nominal or an ordinal variable, and which is having only two categorization. For example, gender is only two categorization. It is a categorical variable. In that case, suppose if we want to study about the equality of a proportion of these independent groups in the sample, definitely you can consider binomial test. Then you have one independent variable and which is categorical. It's more than two categories. In that case, you can consider chi-square test. That is goodness of it. Then you consider next table, you refer it. Then you have one independent variable. In that one independent variable, you are having exactly two groups. For example, gender is having only two groups, male, female. Or another, for example, the marital status, married, unmarried, two groups. And they are categorical, basically either ordinal or nominal. And you are dependent, you are having only one dependent variable. That dependent variable is an interval or ratio variable, that is a continuous variable. And that continuous variable has met the assumptions of normality. Then what test we have to consider? What inferential analysis that we have to consider? We have to consider independent sample t-test. The same situation, our dependent variable does not satisfy the normality assumption. In that case, you have to go for Mann-Whitney U-test. It's a non-parametric test, Mann-Whitney U-test. Then another case, your independent variable is having only two groups and it's a categorical, either ordinal or nominal, and your dependent variable is also a categorical variable. It's a nominal ordinal. In that case, what you can go for cross tabulation and chi-square tests. Cross tabulation and chi-square test for testing the significant difference or association between these two categories, these two variables. Okay, when you come to the next table, here we have only one independent variable. That independent variable is having 3 or more groups. In gender, only 2 groups. Then merit is only 2 groups. Okay, suppose we consider educational qualification. Maybe, for example, 10th or +2, UG, PG, then any professional qualification, etc. Suppose if there are 3 or more groups under independent variable categories, that actually that variable is categorical, either ordinal or nominal. That is our independent variable. And dependent variable is interval or ratio, and that variable is normally distributed. Then we have to choose what? One-way ANOVA. Okay, in this case, again, you consider that this is a rough listing. Here, suppose when you do one-way ANOVA, you have to check homogeneity and homogeneity of variance, etc. If the independent groups are not homogeneous in variance, you have to use another ANOVA. That is, I think you have heard about Welsh ANOVA. You have to use that one. Okay, this is actually, then you have to think about Welsh and other details later when you discuss about ANOVA only. Okay, roughly you see that here, suppose if we have 3 or more, that means an independent variable with the 3 or more groups, and which is a categorical one, and only one dependent variable. That dependent variable is a continuous variable, and that is normally distributed. Then you consider one-way ANOVA. Then if that dependent variable is not normal, it's not normally distributed, then you have to consider Kruskal-Wallis H test. Okay, we have studied about Kruskal-Wallis H test. Then suppose you see that if the independent variable, if the dependent variable is a categorical variable, it's not a numeric, it's a categorical, either ordinal or non-nominal. In that case, we use chi-square test. We use cross tabulation along with this chi-square test also. Then when we come to the next table, we have only one independent variable and it's having only 2 options. That 2 options, that means we are dealing with the paired data. Only one variable, that variable is having 2 observations, before and after observations. Okay, for example, the mark of a student before the mark of a student, that means mark of students for the first internal examination or marks of students for the second internal examination. In that case, whether there is an improvement in the examination scores or not. In that case, actually, we are dealing with paired data. That means related or dependent data. Okay, in this case, you are taking the performance of an employee before giving a training to them or after giving a training. We may collect 2 observations, 2 data of same respondents before and after. Before introducing something, before implementing something, we check the performance. And these 2 observations are compared. In that case, if our change score is normally distributed, that means the differences between these 2 observations, that is known as change score. If that change score is normally distributed, then we have to consider paired t-test. If the change score is not normally distributed, then here at that place you can use Wilcoxon sign rank test. Okay, if suppose if you want to compare the pre and post changes of a categorical variable, you can consider McNamara test. Okay, this is a way we select the since it's a statistical test. Then here another one here, advanced areas are also included in this presentation. One independent variable, 3 or more groups are there. They are dependent in category. That means they are related. That means paired categorization. And your dependent variable is interval or ratio. In that case, then suppose that independent variable, that is a change score, is normally distributed, then you can consider one-way repeated measures of ANOVA. One-way repeated. That means the marks of students for the 3 examinations, first, second, third one, three examinations will be compared, and we want to, suppose if we want to assess the progress or the progress in the academic performances. Okay, here in that case we can use, suppose if the change score is normally distributed, we can consider one-way repeated measures of, not one-way ANOVA, it is one-way repeated measures of ANOVA. Then if the change score is not normally distributed, in that case we use Friedman tests. Then suppose if it is a categorical, we consider repeated measures logistic regression. We consider repeated measures logistic regression at that place. Then next table, nature of independent variable. Two or more independent variables are there. Here in this case, we have two independent variables. These two independent variables are having more than two groups. The independent variable categories are there. And we have only one dependent variable. Two or more independent variable and only one dependent variable, and that dependent variable is normally distributed. In that case we use factorial ANOVA, which is, we can consider it as a two-way ANOVA. Then if there are more than two independent variables, we will call it as factorial ANOVA. Then if the dependent variable is not normally distributed, in that case we consider ordered logistic regression. And if our dependent variable is a categorical dichotomous type variable, here we can consider factorial logistic regression. Okay, when we come to the next table, we have only one independent variable. That independent variable is a metric variable, or a continuous variable, or a quantitative variable, and you have only one dependent variable, and you want to study the relationship between this variable. In that case we can consider what? Correlation or linear regression. And if it is not normal, or if it is categorized, that means suppose if the variables are ordinal variables or not normal, in that case we can use rank correlations. Then your dependent variable is a categorical. In this case you simply use logistic regression. That means your independent variable is interval or ratio, and your dependent variable is categorical, then you use simple logistic regression. Then you come to the next table. We have two or more independent variables, that is scale variable or category. It may be a scale or categorical variable, and we have one dependent variable. In that case, that variable is normally distributed, then you can consider multiple regression. Then if your dependent variable is an ordinal variable, we can consider ordinal logistic regression. And if it is nominal variable, multinomial logistic regression can be applied. And if your nature of a dependent variable is categorical, in that case you can choose a discriminant analysis, etc. Discriminant analysis. Okay. Then we can consider the next tables. We have only one independent variable. It is having only two groups, that is a categorical. And the nature of dependent variable is you have one dependent variable, but here we have some covariates. Covariates must be included. Analysis here, we suppose if we want to study the covariances also, and here you can add covariates. In that case, your dependent variable is interval or ratio, and you are having only one independent variable, that is a categorical variable. In that case we use one-way ANCOVA. And here your nature of independent variable, you are having two or more independent variables. They are interval or ratio, or they are categorical. In that case you are having two, suppose you see that you are having two dependent variables and more than two independent variables. In that case you can go for multiple regression, or suppose you can use one-way MANOVA, etc. Then if you are having two or more independent variables, categorical variables, and you are having two or more dependent variables, then you can use two-way MANOVA, etc. You can refer these tables for finding apt statistical test. Here many statistics tests are there, but here I have listed some of the commonly used statistical analysis for social science research. Then if our data demands further analysis like factor analysis are there, then cluster analysis are there, correspondence analysis are there, then suppose we can come out of the normal analysis. Some different types of analysis are possible. If our data set requires those analysis, we can consider those one here, because just for the presentation purpose, I have listed out some of the commonly used statistical analysis and how to select these analysis for our study. And you have to consider three important aspects. You have to keep that point in your mind. Three aspects: measurement level, parametric assumptions, and number of independent and dependent variables in the same group. Okay, you refer these three aspects, three factors, and you pick out the right analysis for your study. Okay, let us come to the last part. That is about here. In this case, I shall introduce some of the widely used statistical package for the data analysis. I know that you are already familiar with these different packages, and Excel, MS Excel, SPSS, R, and Stata, Python, SAS. Okay, these are very powerful. R and Stata, SAS, they are very powerful analysis. SPSS is more user friendly, and here just for suppose if you want to do basic level analysis, I can suggest some of the free softwares, PSPP and JASP, Jeffrey's amazing statistics program. It is comparatively a new program. Actually, these packages include basic level or intermediary level analysis. You can consider any these package for your data analysis. So many packages are available. Suppose if you search it, then a good number of analysis packages are available, and these packages will be performed in different ways, and their data management methodologies will be a little bit different. Here, suppose if you consider SPSS, is so user friendly, but it is a business software. Here it is so user friendly, which is MS Excel is there. It is having the packages or add-in packages for doing sufficient analysis with MS Excel. It is also possible. PSPP is just an alternative, a free version alternative of SPSS, and the same JASP is also a free software, and you can download it from internet and you can use it for your own purpose, data analysis purpose. Okay, I think this is the time to wind up this presentation. I hope that I have explained all the contents in the presentation. Really, I express my sincere gratitude to all of you for your patient listening, and I would like to thank the management, the principal, dear George sir, and all the organizers and team members for giving me an opportunity to talk on this subject. Thank you very much. If you have any question to clarify any component that we have discussed, you are always welcome. So over to organizers.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really informative, and it was well structured, and the way of presentation was really nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, I think we have no questions in the chat box. So can we move to the word of thanks?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay. Now would like to have Reverend Father Tony Artguril, CST, Vice Principal, JPM Arts and Science College, for the word of thanks. Father, please.
Respected Speaker of the Day, Dr. Tejil Thomas, Assistant Professor and Research Guide at St. Thomas College, Palai, our Principal, Dr. V.V. Georgiakutti, Principal, Marian College, Autonomous, Kuttikkanam, faculties from different colleges, research scholars, and participants. A very good evening to all. And today is the second day of the faculty development program conducted by IQAC of JPM College in association with Marian College, Autonomous, Kuttikkanam. And on this day, it's my pleasure to thank Dr. Tejil Thomas for handling the session on data analysis for social sciences research. As you all know, he presented that topic in an elaborate way. And many were there for this session. Many professors were there, research scholars were there, and students were there. And what we got for the professors and scholars, they got an in-depth understanding about the research. Surely they know something about the research, but sir, your presentation enabled all of us to know in detail. In such way you presented everything. And for the beginners in research, it was an eye-opening. This presentation was an eye-opening because we all got, surely all got an in-depth, thorough understanding about the research, how to collect data, and various steps that are associated with data analysis. So in that way, your presentation was very comprehensive and very in-depth. So we express thank you, sir, for our invitation and enlightening all of us in this area of research. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I also like to thank the principal, Marian College, Autonomous, Kuttikkanam, for associating with us for this faculty development program. I hereby express my sincere gratitude towards our principal, Dr. V.V. Georgiakutti sir, for his continuous support and guidance. And today it was through our principal that we got Dr. Tejil Thomas, because before joining in the university, our principal, he was there at St. Thomas College, Palai, for a span of 27 years. So he's from that college. He knows well that college. So it's surely through sir that we got today our resource person, Dr. Tejil Thomas. So thank you, sir. I also thank the IQAC team of JPM College for organizing this event. Here next come our participants. So hereby acknowledge all the participants for their active involvement in this faculty development program. And this is the second day, and many of you were there yesterday, and we expect your presence tomorrow in the same time. And above all, I am grateful to the Lord Almighty for his bounteous blessings upon each one of us. Once again, thanking you all, I conclude. Thank you. Have a great time.
Thank you, Father. And on behalf of